website is boldrepublic.com. It's a Thursday already. For the love of God, Charlie, how is this year going so fast?
I have no idea, but we're coming up on another budget session.
Jeez, I got too much to do with my life for this year to be going by this fast. Charlie Katibi, did I say it right?
Yes. Oh, yes, you did.
I always worry about saying his name there. It's with Wyoming Liberty Group. And we're coming up on another budget session here. And there's a couple of things I want to worm into. Some are inside what you're going to talk about. Some are outside, but I want to get them both in here. Sure. Charlie, we have, first off, the governor has admitted we're going to come up on a shortfall. Yeah. And so we're going to have to take a look at the money and decide what the state of Wyoming, now I don't care what state you're listening in, this counts. Budget shortfalls, things slowing down in this state. So we're going to have to take a look at our budget, and our money wants to cut about $200 million or slow the rate of growth or something like that. But at the same time, he wants to expand Medicaid.
That's right.
Okay. I'm just still scratching my head. This isn't making a lot of sense. Can you help me here, or do I need aspirin for this one?
Well, what he wants to do is he's going to release two budgets. He's going to show one that shows what the budget will look like if we didn't expand Medicaid, and it's going to look like it's in the red. And then he's going to show one where we expanded Medicaid and we received about $90 million in federal aid. And that's going to be in the black. So he's going to offer us a choice. Do we deny Medicaid again and end up in the red, or do we get Medicaid money and all of our budget problems are magically solved?
Okay, now, here's what I would like to know, besides just, is he nuts? But I don't think you can answer that one, and I want you to keep your job. I like it when you come on the show. I'll just say that he's nuts. But has anyone ever gone to this governor and just sat down and showed him all of the states that expanded Medicaid and how it ended up costing them far more than the federal government was offering them?
I have no idea if he's actually looking into this. His numbers are the same ones he's trotted out for years. He's saying we're going to get $90 million and we only have to pay $10 million after 3 years. But he has no idea what our enrollment numbers are going to be. Colorado's enrollment numbers were triple. So we could see triple the cost. So instead of us paying $10 million to the program as a cost to the Wyoming's taxpayers, it could be $30 million. So he has no idea how much the enrollment's going to be, how much the costs are going to be. He hasn't even shown us what numbers he's looking at when he's come to this position. So there's a lot of question marks here.
Well, a lot of other question marks, like, for example, here comes our federal government again up on another debt ceiling. And at some point, they're going to have to find places to cut. And I guarantee you they're going to take programs like this and just dump them on the states so they don't have to take care of it at the federal level.
Of course. They've already been proposing this. In the last budget ceiling fight, Obama proposed cutting the Medicaid reimbursement. He didn't get it. That wasn't part of the negotiation. But it will again. Medicaid is a big favorite for cutting. And that's another thing. We haven't even touched upon whether the federal government will even keep its promise. So that's another big question mark as well.
Well, on that note, it does actually relate in sort of a roundabout way. Go to my website, boldrepublic.com, and go to my daily outrage page for today. It's the second story. Obamacare payment to insurers is $2.5 billion less than expected. So when you look at things like that, I mean, they're already finding ways to pull back and cut back because the money isn't working out like they think the money is going to work out. So this is why I said, if you're listening to me in any state where your governor says, oh, we have to expand this, because I really wonder, are they sitting in an echo chamber? Do they ever get a chance to sit in on a meeting where somebody shows the numbers that you're telling us about?
I don't know. I really hope. And to the credit of Governor Meade a bit, no one actually knows how this thing was going to play out. It was a huge bill, a lot of spending promises, a lot of taxing proposals, a lot of regulatory changes, but it was so huge nobody could foresee. And it's ridiculous for Governor Meade to say, we know how this is going to pan out. We're going to expand, we're going to insure a lot of people, and somehow the state is going to save money. But everywhere we've seen, states end up paying a lot more. And we're probably going to see them having to roll back some of their promises to the beneficiaries, which is the worst part of it all, because this is supposed to help people.
Two parts that I see here, if you expand Medicaid like this, that I think we've already seen. It's already proven. Yeah. One of them is that the number of people, as you just said, that pour into the state, any state, looking for free stuff, ends up overwhelming the system. So I would just like to put Governor Meade in my car and drive him down to Colorado, just over the border. It's right there, and he can see what happened in Colorado.
Exactly. And another point, these state governments are doing a terrible job of actually estimating how many people. Like Illinois is end up going to have to pay another $2 billion to make up to covering another 300,000 people that they anticipated. Kentucky has to pay another $1.5 billion. They have no idea how many people are going to sign up.
Here's why. It's ridiculous. Let me answer as to why, because I know some doctors that have told me about this, and I know one in particular that came from Illinois. And the reason why is because they're taking a look at the initial numbers of how many people are in their state. There are this many people in our state that need the help. So it's possible that this number of people are going to show up because this is how many people are in our state. What they don't take into account is the flood of people from other states, again, who come in looking for free stuff. And if you try to find a way to make it so out-of-state people can't get the free stuff, trust me, people find a way to play the system.
That's a big factor in this. And also, these estimations on how many people are insured or how many people would be eligible, if they're uninsured, odds are they don't go to the doctor as much as people that are insured, which means we really don't know how many people are out there, to be perfectly honest. So it's a real guessing game.
Does this, and if you know the answer, I know someone who can answer it for you, so I'm setting you up here. Does this, it's supposed to decrease emergency room visits. Does it increase or decrease?
What we've seen with Medicaid overall is that it's a big increase. So Colorado, there was a study in Colorado that was done that showed just last year, in 2014, the amount of emergency rooms increased in non-expansion states by around 2%.
Right.
However, in the states that expanded Medicaid, their emergency room visits increased by nearly 6%, so nearly triple. So there is very little evidence to suggest that just because you get onto Medicaid, you're going to actually get the care you need, which is going to prevent people from going to the emergency room.
Yeah, I'm talking to Charlie Katibi, who's from Wyoming Liberty Group. He's talking to us about Medicaid expansion, in this case, in the state of Wyoming, where it's supposed to be a conservative governor, but he's not the only Republican governor that's expanded it. But but then again, he did sort of, play the game a little bit while he was running for office again. Seemed to me, but all right, he's in office and he's trying to expand it. Let me just ask real quick, because we need to go in a little bit more some of the problems with it, but does he have the votes, do you think, this time around? Or because last couple of times it was just killed?
Yeah, it was pretty bad, and there's really little reason to think that he's going to get any more votes. He's banking on this budget crisis and saying this is the reason to. But if anyone that looks at these numbers, how can you honestly say that if you expand an entitlement, you're going to save money? If anything, this hurts his cause.
Yeah, see, that's why I started the segment with you like that, because I took a look at it immediately when I saw the governor saying, well, we need to cut $200 million.
Yeah. Good.
That means you do not want to expand Medicaid, because that would actually, that could be your $200 million right there if you don't watch out. So again, I just wonder where he's getting the numbers from, or I'd like to sit down and talk with him and ask logically, how does he square this? Because I don't see it.
I'd really like to talk with him as well. He's making a case that a lot of people make, in that if you expand Medicaid, you'll reduce unpaid medical bills. And that's the idea that if you go to the emergency room, you get the care, you leave, you don't pay. And his argument is give someone a Medicaid card and then they'll be able to pay. Yeah. But they, like I said before, they don't use the emergency room any less. And Medicaid has all sorts of costs of its own.
Well, and again, from what I've seen, they tend to use the emergency room more for things that the emergency room doesn't need to be used for. But then do you have numbers there in front of you? Because again, I've talked to one doctor in particular, but a few others about what exactly is paid by the government to these hospitals, because the hospitals don't get really the full cost of care, do they?
No, they don't. Now it's kind of a trade secret among hospitals or doctors. How much are they paid by Medicaid? And among all the states, Wyoming is actually pretty good. We nearly pay about cost what Medicaid is in Wyoming right now. I may be a little off with the numbers, but we do the best among all the states. Now that's because of the immense mineral revenue we got over the past few years. We got such a windfall that Medicaid can afford to pay doctors very well. But as you know, and this is where the budget crisis is coming from, the price of gas and the price of oil have just collapsed.
Right.
So that I'm going to make an educated guess that those reimbursement rates, those really good rates, are going away. We just can't do it. And I think it's even more irresponsible to say, let's expand this program that has an even lower revenue base because of this drop in oil revenue.
Hey, don't worry. We have that rainy day fund. So, and if you really want to have a good time, I just want you to walk into a Marine's office and mention the rainy day fund.
Yeah.
And then I suggest slowly backing out. Okay.
It's funny. Some of the legislators are saying we should tap the rainy day fund to make a smooth transition, as if these low oil prices are temporary.
Yeah.
But
well, and look, in the long run, they are temporary. But what gets me is someone who has been in Wyoming, in the boom and bust cycles of a state like this, for not just his entire life, but for generations, the Meade family has been in there. They should know a lot more about how when times are good, you set aside for when times are bad, which to their credit, the state has done. But you got to make sure you're actually in hard times. You got to make sure not to overextend yourself when times are good.
Yeah, and you don't expand a permanent entitlement right when you're facing a major shortfall.
Well, and then you don't trust the federal government to keep their promises on paying their end of the entitlement.
No, they've shown time and again that they cannot be trusted. They will not keep their funding promises when budgets are tight. So it's irresponsible for the governor or any governor to go to your taxpayers and say, hey, trust the federal government. They're here to help.
Yeah, Ronald Reagan. Yeah, let's go ahead and invoke him. So, okay, the governor is going to propose this, or has he already proposed this? I mean, is the cat out of the bag on this?
Not a formal proposal, but he said in several meetings, several media events that, yes, he plans to put this forward to our representatives yet again.
Now, in the upcoming session, now I want to look at the political landscape time. It was just shot down. And as I take a look at it, why bring it up now if there's a guarantee that it's just going to be shot down again?
Well, he's not going. Usually he went through the Labor and Health Committee, and that receives a lot of comments from the medical community. And a lot of the people on that committee, a lot of the members, were very, very skeptical about Medicaid expansion, about its costs, about whether it would actually help patients. So now he's going to go through the Joint Appropriations Committee, where there is somewhat more support. It isn't large, it isn't unanimous by any stretch of the imagination, but there is more support from the members, especially from the Democrats.
So his hope then is to just get it out of committee and onto the floor.
More or less, essentially, and say, this is a budget crisis, we're going to get some fresh new money from the federal government, and this will make everything right as rain.
No, of course it will. Now, during these committee meetings, I mean, even with a committee meeting like this, I've been in a couple as just an observer, and people are allowed to come in and comment. I mean, invited guests can come in and sit and give their expert opinion on that. So, is this going to happen here as well?
I hope so. And anyone that comes there and is skeptical should ask, how much will it cost if our enrollment skyrockets, triple, like what a lot of states have seen? Happen if the costs per patient are even higher than they anticipated? What goes into these numbers that he's been touting as if we're going to save all this money? Okay,
so if you were somebody, because I know several people who would be just great to go and talk on this because they're in the medical profession, how do you get invited to this? How do you get in?
I don't particularly know, actually. I would have to get back to you on that and your listeners.
Okay, all right, because that would just be great to have somebody in there. Okay, but let's say it actually makes it out of the committee. Now, I'm asking you to speculate quite a bit, I know, but odds that it'll get anywhere in the House and Senate?
I mean, there hasn't been. I mean, we had the election. The representatives came in. They voted down Medicaid expansion last year.
Yeah.
There is no reason to think their minds have changed. If anything, I mean, this budget situation is even harder. So why would they throw another $10 million on the budget for us to pay for when we don't have the money to pay for it?
But because we're going to get 90 and everything's going to be okay.
Well, this is how they say it. They say this is free money and it's going to paper over these deficits. But money from Washington doesn't actually do that. Money from Washington comes with a purpose, to pay for something.
Here, just a thought. Between you and me, nobody else listening here, you understand? Whenever you have money coming from Washington, D.C., I mean, haven't the people in government in general learned that when Washington, D.C. is offering money, it becomes the strings of a marionette doll, and we are the marionette doll. How many times do they have to go through that and not learn the lesson?
I have no idea, because they always say, this is Wyoming's money, and we're getting it back. What they don't understand is it's no longer Wyoming's money.
Right.
It's Uncle Sam's money. There are strings attached, and Medicaid expansion will not save Wyoming money. It creates new expensive promises that we are on the hook for.
That's why I'm in favor of, this is Wyoming's money. We're getting it back. I have a better idea. We take our cut first and send Washington, D.C. their cut later. That way we don't have to get it back.
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. And if Governor Meade likes the idea of, hey, Washington sends us money and we're free to use it however we want, that's called a block grant. And he is free to advocate for that. That is a great idea. That is not how Medicaid works, though.
No, it's not. Okay. Well, okay. In the meantime, who do people contact, whether they're for or against this? I mean, I suppose you could always send emails and so on to the governor, but who would you advise people get a hold of?
Talk to the representatives and tell them that they don't want to pay for this huge fiscal disaster, and these numbers that the governor's going to be touting, they can't be trusted. There's nothing behind them. They're based on these phony enrollment estimations, and we have no idea how many people will actually enroll. And if you don't know how many people will enroll, we don't know what the costs will be, which means that other programs that we rely on, school repairs, road maintenance, all those things might be cut, because we are facing a major budget crisis right now, and we cannot afford to just take on another new promise. All
right. You're writing extensively about this. Where do people find your work?
You can go to wyliberty.org.
All right. Charlie, as always, good to have you on. Thanks for coming aboard.
Thanks for having me.